Our first story is about Elon Musk and his Doge team. So, after weeks of zero updates from the Doge team about their savings and their website, silently after 12 o'clock on Tuesday of last week, over $1 billion of reported savings was removed from the website. Now, this included over 650 grants and over a dozen leases. And there was zero comment from the team about why they were removed. They were supposed savings that were already locked in dust. That's why the Doge website exists, is to update us supposedly daily. It had been weeks before these were removed, but supposedly daily we're gonna get updates on what the Doge team was gonna save. Big balls and the boys, you know them all. The largest contract that was removed was a $1.1 billion contract with the Acacia Center for Justice. Now, they reported originally that this was going to save taxpayers a whopping $367 billion in savings. That's no longer there. I guess that's back on our bill as taxpayers. Now, this, of course, comes after Musk initially claimed that they were going to save with Doge a whopping $2 trillion for taxpayers. Now, this was during the campaign, they're trying to get his boy Trump elected. He had a lot of money invested in this election. So $2 trillion. Who wouldn't want that? Who doesn't want $2 trillion saved for taxpayers? But you would see after Trump was elected and reality kind of set in for him. On January 30th, he would change that 2 trillion to 1 trillion. Already, a 50% cut in savings. You know, it's a big deal, but 1 trillion is still a lot of savings for taxpayers. I wouldn't scoff at 1 trillion the way the budget is now. You specifically look at the military budget, 1 trillion, I'm for it. You got my support if you could actually deliver, which we know, of course, we couldn't. We knew during the campaign that they would never deliver on these things. If you believed it, I hope now you're kind of waking up to reality. So after it had been moved from 2 trillion to 1 trillion, just on April 10th last month, he revised it already down to $150 billion. 2 trillion to 150 billion. If he was the CEO of Doge, he'd be fired immediately, as we're kind of seeing what's happening with Tesla, but we'll get to that. So we started with 2 trillion in savings. We're now at 150 billion. And of that 150 billion, we're talking about them removing all these savings. So that 150 billion is super lenient right now. But of that 150 billion, 63 of it had itemized receipts with major errors that we'll get into. And the other 92 billion had zero details attached. There's no way to verify that these existed, that they are removed, none of that. Just typical BS being pushed out by the Musk man himself. Along with these removals, there were some really bizarre and childish errors that were listed on the Doge website itself, the official Doge website. Some of these typos and offensive mislabeling included the state mental health facilities as mental health retardation centers. Now, anybody that follows Elon Musk on Twitter knows, or you don't even have to follow him. If you don't follow him, you're still getting him all over your feed. You can't avoid this guy on Twitter. But he loved the word retarded. It's one of his major sayings that he's constantly putting out. He's always talking about reclaiming the R word. And, that's all fine. But when you're listing it on an official website of the US government and calling it mental health retardation centers, it's like, what year is this, guys? Come on. Let's wake up. So besides the lies that Doge and Musk have spread, government spending is already way up and it's only set to increase more. Let's get back to this side. Yeah, we see it here. Government spending, regardless, current government spending is already way up over just last year alone under Biden. So there's $154 billion more spent in 2025 so far than under Biden last year. So we see, regardless, not only are they not saving us money, but the budget's skyrocketing, which is no surprise to anybody that paid attention during Trump's first term. He claimed this, and that, but not only did spending go way up, but you combine that with historic tax cuts for the rich, and the deficit skyrockets. But, don't let facts get in the way of a good story. So, as you see here, spending's already way up just year over year. And not only that, but we have Trump proposing and saying that he wants to increase defense spending to over $1 trillion a year. you can't make this stuff up. We're gonna, cut the deficit, get the debt back in standards, and you want to propose $1 trillion for military spending. It's ridiculous. They're talking out of both sides of their mouths. And the sad part about it is they get away with it. No, this is no shock to anybody that's been paying attention. But I guess the problem is not enough people are paying attention. So yeah, so we got $1 trillion in proposed increase in military budget alone. And you already couple that with, record tax cuts for the rich. What do you think is going to happen to the deficit? Way up. And what happens when the deficit skyrockets? The what? The debt skyrockets. Oh, wow. Didn't need an economy, masters to understand that, but you know how that goes. But as we see here, despite the budget going way up, counteracting whatever, if you think Elon is honestly trying to cut the deficit, this new proposed budget's going to skyrocket it regardless. But if you didn't think Elon was going to cash in on this budget, you were dumb. Mr. I'm going to cut government spending, no more government contracts. Of course, that was lies. And we see Elon Musk is set to win big with Trump's $1 trillion Pentagon budget. Trump's proposal cut SpaceX competition out of the NASA budget and could add billions to the company's defense contracts. Space is pretty much handled by SpaceX now. We have, Blue Origin with Bezos and whatnot, but they're all shit out of luck right now, if we're being honest. And it's going to be, all these space contracts are going to be set to go to Musk. As we're going to get into later, the new head of the NASA is besties with Elon. They've been to space together, and yeah, we're set for more petty corruption, more, oligarchy for the American people. We're just in the beginning of it, to be honest. So yeah, we see Elon is set to win big with the Trump budget. And if we go back here, all of this doesn't change the fact that many of the contracts that are still listed on the DOGE website aren't even due to DOGE's work themselves. So as we see here, here's a map of federal offices that are said to be closing according to DOGE due to them. And we're going to get into that. So for example, if you see the largest lease that DOGE has claimed to cut, a 845,000 square foot building, long predates the DOGE and Trump administration, and the shutdown of this building began under Biden. I guess that doesn't feed into the narratives, and they're already struggling to cut what little they have, so they got to claim what Biden did. It's kind of already being a prevailing story of the Trump administration, is claiming Biden's victories as his own, like the chips factory in Arizona. That's all Biden. All credit goes to Biden, but we see Trump, who initially said he wanted to shut that chips factory down in Arizona, is now praising it as a victory of tariffs, which anybody that knows anything knows that, this chips factory, the CHIPS Act began under Biden. They know that Trump and Mike Johnson and the rest of the Republicans want to end that CHIPS Act, but yet when it comes easy and prevalent for him to claim a victory with the tariffs, he's quick to do it. So, that's the same with DOGE. Just like that 845,000 square foot building, there was the National Archives Center in Fairfield, Ohio. DOGE has claimed victory in getting that shut down, but once again, that began under Biden. So even what little few victories that DOGE claims to still have are all Biden victories. You literally can't make it up. And the facts are here for people to wake up and realize. Whether they do or don't, it's up to them. It's up to them. But that's kind of part of why I'm launching this show, to at least say, for me, I'm trying to get the facts out there. You know what they say, facts don't care about your feelings, right? All this goes to show that DOGE and Elon Musk not only continue to overstate the amount of money it's saving the American people, but it's clearly lying to the public. And not only that, but you have a billionaire, an unelected billionaire at that, illegally running rampant through the American government. No regards for Congress, no regards for the separation of powers, just going at his own free will, all while lying to the public, misleading them, and all while engrossing themselves. Because ultimately, what is Elon doing? He's saying the government is just giving away money to these billionaires that aren't doing anything with their money and that are using the government to get rich, right? But who has received a almost record breaking $40 billion in government contracts? Oh, well, it's Mr. Elon Musk himself, but we're not going to talk about that. I guarantee you there will be no cuts in Tesla, SpaceX, any of those government contracts. In fact, it's already been proven they're having more. Trump's announcing more contracts with Elon Musk companies, all while he's cutting the competition out. And he's being lauded as a hero for conservatives. You can't make it up. Not to mention the fact that he was a liberal all of 5 years ago, and you know, this oligarchy's taking over. We're seeing it in our face. We have Malay in this picture. We all know what Malay's been doing. Um, say one thing, do another, and they know. Here's the thing: they know that a certain percentage of the American public is too dumb, is too ignorant, doesn't care enough to even do the tertiary level of research to verify if there's kind of reality in this or is it all BS. But hopefully people start to wake up after this flop that was Doge. Just a complete flop. Historic levels, and we're kind of seeing it with Tesla. The Tesla stock price is collapsing. They're on the process of looking for a new CEO of the company. And you can't blame them. Just look at the stock price. You see 60% falls in the last few months when Trump was elected. So ideally, I'm sure for Tesla stockholders entering the campaign, they knew what he was doing. They knew he was sacrificing his entire reputation. And hopefully, I'm sure they were banking on Trump winning and it would be a boom for the stocks. But we see with the tariffs, and we know Elon's not a fan of the tariffs after calling out, Trump's economics guys and saying they're idiots, blatantly calling them out because it's hurting him. And he there's nothing he can do about it because clearly that $250 billion he gave to the Trump campaign only had so much of an impact. So, shout out Elon for nuking his reputation. Shout out to Elon for destroying, kind of his entire business. It's kind of looking like to me he's on his way out. But at the same time, he's got an empty checkbook and he's shown he's ready to deal it out to Trump. And it's kind of his last bet. He's kind of got nowhere else to go. So he's backed into a corner. We're going to see what happens with Tesla if he remains the CEO. We're going to see if he actually, remains separated from the government itself. Or, I think he's going to come back, let's be honest. And I think you look at his forays into European politics, he's really found himself with the far right globally, and I don't think he's going anywhere. But I do think he's not in a good spot. He's kind of nuked everything, and he's going to have to put in some work to really turn it all around. I'm sure we're all going to be waiting in bated breath to see what the oligarchs do to remain oligarchs. But hopefully people begin to wake up a little bit, if we're being honest. Hopefully people begin to wake up. What did Ben Shapiro say? Facts don't care about your feelings, right?